Welcome to the latest episode of the B Movie Club. I'm your host, Kevin. This week we're discussing the 1996 comedy classic, Happy Gilmore, starring Adam Sandler, Christopher McDonald, Julie Bowen, Bob Barker, Lee Trevino, the list goes on and on, Carl Weathers. For those of you joining us for the first time, each week on the B Movie Club, we discuss a certain guilty pleasure, forgotten classic, and you can watch it streaming instantly on Netflix. You can send me in your favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, questions. You can reach me on our page on Facebook, Original B Movie Club. Don't forget to give it the big thumbs up. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube, Kevin D. Type that in and subscribe. It's totally free. If you want to reach me more immediately, I'm on Twitter at KD9575. So like me, subscribe to me, follow me, whatever you need to do, and spread the word, please. Thank you for joining us. Happy Gilmore in this movie. Happy is a wannabe hockey player. He tries out each year for the local team and never gets it because even though he's got a ridiculous slap shot, like the strength and the power behind it is crazy, not a great skater, not particularly good at the the ins and outs, the details of the game of hockey. Doesn't really have any other job. His girlfriend dumps him. His grandmother's about to be evicted. All this horrible stuff. And one day he discovers he can really hit the long ball in golf. He doesn't do it in a traditional way. He does it in his own crazy slap shot induced way where he kind of lines up behind it and kind of gallops into it. I can't explain it. But he can hit it effortlessly 400 plus yards. He goes in and participates in the Waterbury Open, whereas if you win that tournament, the local tournament, then you're automatically eligible for the for the pro golfing tour. I'm not sure that's how it works, but in the course of this movie, okay. Just like in hockey, he can hit it really far, but in golf, it's the nuances that he doesn't really understand. He can't really putt, doesn't understand the rules. He's beating up people, he's dropping F-bombs, he's not dressed appropriately, okay. There's a lot of things going on. Carl Weathers plays Chubbs Peterson, who's the local golf pro, and he tries to help him kind of refine his game. When he joins the pro tour, Happy immediately meets his nemesis, Shooter McGavin, played by Christopher McDonald, who's kind of the old guy on the tour. He's been around. Unfortunately, he's never really won the main tournament, the championship, if you will. And he's kind of irritated that Happy's stealing his thunder with his unorthodox play and his F-bombs, the usual. So there's some friction there. Julie Bowen plays the publicist for the golfing tour, the pro golf tour. And she's kind of pulling for Happy, trying to help him get on the straight and narrow. Basically, Happy's got to win money in order to keep his grandmother's house from being sold. Okay? Happy's, he's not really winning a lot because, again, he can't putt. Kind of like me, sadly. Eventually, he kind of gets it. I don't want to spoil everything. Okay? There's a lot of comedy here. If you're a big fan of Adam Sandler doing kind of wacky Adam Sandler type things, this is definitely a movie for you. Okay? Speaking for myself, I went and saw Billy Madison, which was like Adam Sandler's first big starring thing. And I almost walked out because it is a lot of, I'm Adam Sandler and I'm crazy. There's a lot of that going on. And the only reason I went and saw Happy Gilmore is I was in college at the time. Give you an idea how old I am. And when you're in college, they will do kind of these free sneak previews on campus for certain movies before they come out. And they did that with Happy Gilmore. I had some friends in the dorm. They were like, hey, we're going to go. Begrudgingly, I went, and I thought it was hilarious. Hilarious. Now, granted, I haven't seen the movie in like 15 years. I watched it more recently. It's still mildly amusing and enjoyable, but I think it's definitely much more of the comedy of I'm in college kind of thing. I thought Adam Sandler was always great on Saturday Night Live. But then it's like he had a run of a few, mildly amusing movies. In the last, I want to say 8 or 9 years, it's just been a lot of crapola, in my opinion. At some point, people were just like, studio executives were like, Adam Sandler, here's a blank check. Go to Hawaii with your buddies and come back with a movie. Whatever you want to do, we're cool with it. So then you get things like Just Go With It, Jack and Jill, for example, Grown Ups, those horrible things. Anyway, so there you have it. I think Happy Gilmore is probably on the upper echelon of kind of wacky Adam Sandler comedies. That's not your cup of tea. I would steer clear, if you catch my drift. Things you might want to know about this movie. Evidently, he based this character of Happy Gilmore upon a buddy of his, Kyle, he grew up with, who was kind of, a wannabe hockey player who, for whatever reason, his technique of hitting the slap shot really allowed him to hit the long ball in golf, like to a ridiculous degree, to the point where he was like winning like long ball tournaments and things like that. Like I said, Christopher McDonald plays Shooter McGavin. You might remember him from Grease 2, among other things. I don't know. Bruce Campbell, my old friend from Evil Dead, etc. Auditioned for the role. Sadly, he did not get it. Would have been a different movie. There's plenty of scenes where Adam Sandler's like threatening to fight Shooter McGavin and things like that. And there was an issue because Christopher McDonald's like, why would I be afraid of Happy Gilmore? Christopher McDonald's like 6'3". Adam Sandler's like, I don't know, a generous 5'10", if you will. But they went back and forth. Eventually, Adam Sandler had to convince him. It's like, well, you're not afraid of him physically. It's just, he's breaking bottles. He's got a wild and crazy temper. That's really what the fear is in this movie. Ben Stiller is in this, uncredited, playing the nurse, which is kind of funny. He spawned one of my favorite things that I still say a lot to this day, and I'll share it with you later. Okay. Anyway, other things. Julie Bowen, again, she's in this. Now she's in Modern Family years and years later. Lee Trevino makes an appearance in this, says a couple lines. Mark Lai, another famous golfer, appears in one scene. Carl Weathers, another one of my old friends, San Diego State graduate, go Aztecs. There's a joke where he's like, Adam Sandler's talking to him going like, oh, a big guy like you, why did you get into golf? Why did you get into football? And Carl Weathers says something along the lines of, oh, my mom wouldn't sign the permission slip. Actually, Carl Weathers did play pro football. He was with the LA Rams for a very, very short time. And of course, we all know him as Apollo Creed, the Count of Monte Fisto. Okay, need I say more? What else can I tell you about this movie? At one point in this movie, Adam Sandler, Happy Gilmore, gets into a physical fist fight with Bob Barker. When they approached Bob Barker about doing this, he was reluctant, as you might imagine. And what really got him to sign on was when they told him, yeah, but you win the fight. Like, that's all he wanted. He's like, as long as I get to win the fight, I'm in. And that fight actually won the first annual MTV Movie Awards Best Fight, the inaugural edition. So there you go. So there it's quality, okay? Interestingly enough, if Bob Barker and Adam Sandler really did get into a fist fight, Bob Barker probably really would have won because he studied some kind of karate under Chuck Norris's brother for like 10 years, so he was really skilled anyway. So there you have it. Another actor who makes an appearance in this, another one of my favorites, Richard Kiel. You might remember him from the James Bond movies. He was Jaws, 7'2" actor. So there you go. Whenever you see him, he's kind of leaning on something. Okay, I always thought it was just because he's so tall that eventually it's hard for you to carry yourself around when you reach a certain age. He was actually in an automobile accident, which kind of limited his mobility. So at one point, he's supposedly chasing down Shooter McGavin. He's kind of these exaggerated, like no one runs like this. But that obviously he couldn't run. He was in an automobile accident. So, c'est la vie. Another thing that's kind of interesting about this movie is if you pay close attention, the overabundance of product placement. Some critics actually called this like a 2-hour commercial because it's not just people happen to be drinking, Pepsi or Diet Pepsi or whatever. It's like they're referencing it. And if you watched Adam Sandler movies after that point, there's a lot of that going on where they're like, hey, let's go eat at Subway. And they look at the camera and they're like, this is delicious. In fact, they worked in, a commercial like he needed some money, so I'm going to work at Subway and have a delicious cold cut combo. Years later when he was in Mr. Deeds, they actually stop off at Wendy's and they're commenting, go, hey, can I have your curly fries? Or that kind of ridiculous stuff. Because if you remember, prior to that, they would drink like random Cola X, they'd cover up the label, and they'd make a point not to show any of those things. Adam Sandler was one of those first who was like, I'm hitting it. I mean, they were doing Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, Pepsi Max, Top Flight golf balls, ESPN, Subway, the list goes on and on. It was like a ridiculous amount of stuff. When this movie came out, it was actually #2 in the box office, did fairly well, reasonably well. Currently, it holds a 59% rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. Very sad. Like I said, if you're an Adam Sandler fan from way back, this will definitely be your cup of tea. If you prefer a more highbrow humor, if you will, this may not be for you. I enjoy it. Like I said, I remember thinking it was the funniest movie in the world 15 years ago. I watched it more recently and I found it mildly amusing. So that's a little bit of a step down, just a little bit. So there you have it. Next week, we're going back to the action genre. We're going to do 1985's A View to a Kill, the last James Bond movie starring a decrepit Roger Moore. Another one of my favorites. I'm not ashamed to admit Roger Moore is my favorite James Bond. We'll talk about that next week. Hopefully, we will have a special guest joining us as well, so you have that to look forward to. As you know, I end every episode with a totally out of context quote, and here it is. You can have a warm glass of shut the hell up. That was the famous Ben Stiller line, one of my favorites. I still use that all the time. Other lines that were thrown out there by some friends and family. My buddy Tom kicked out, now you're going to get it, Bobby. Karen threw out, you can do it, which actually doesn't appear in this movie. That was in The Water Boy, among others. But thanks for playing. So next week, A View to a Kill. Thank you for joining us, and be well.